big weekend on the diamond for Clemson softball this past weekend. Unfortunately, didn't go their way in the super regionals up in Austin, Texas. But
Yeah.
Really proud of that group. How they turned around a 2-6 start. It looked like it was going to be a long year. A team with a lot of freshmen and sophomores that were still kind of, stepping into their new roles. We weren't sure if they were going to be able to figure it out, but then they go on that winning streak. They get big wins over #1 Tennessee. They split the series with South Carolina, who was really, really good this year. And then and wind up winning the ACC tournament. Like, I mean, it's incredible what they were able to accomplish, and they were so close to accomplishing even more.
So close, man.
But man, just proud of Coach Rittman, proud of those girls. That was a valiant, just a great historic season in program history. And I didn't even think this would be the team to do what they did. They got our first win in a super regional.
First ever in program history. And, the crazy thing about it is, looking back at this team, you go all the way back to the Clearwater tournament that they kicked the season off with. I think they started the season like 1-6. And then I think only lost 6 games the rest of the way, which is just a feat in and of itself. And, this team I think was pretty special. They had some really good – it's a very young team, which is good for the future of Clemson softball. But with that said, they had some really good veteran leadership on this team with people like Maddie Moore and Abby Vieira and others that kind of anchored this team with a little bit of veteran leadership. Brooke McCubbin is another one that was absolutely sensational this year. So it was a great softball season. I enjoyed watching it. Unfortunately, we let the opportunity slip down in Austin, Texas. Clemson had that super regional in hand. And frankly, I think we're probably better than Texas as a softball team. We just, we made a couple mistakes that we couldn't recover from. You go out there, you punch them in the mouth game one, and you take game one in their stadium. And then game two is looking really good, right? It was tied up. And then bottom of the 8th, you got runners at second and third, no outs, and you're like, man, we're about to walk this thing off and go to our very first Women's College World Series, and it just wasn't meant to be. Once we lost game 2, I was extremely worried about game 3 because of our pitching situation. We really had a 2-headed horse when it came to pitching. It was a recipe, like the whole second half of the season was a recipe of Basinger starting and Brooke McCubbin coming in and finishing every big game. And It worked. It brought us an ACC championship, the first ACC championship of program history outside of the regular season one that we won, and our first super regional win. So great milestones for this team, but definitely more to come for this group because there is a lot of freshmen that contributed in a big way for this team. So that spells excitement for the future. But, shout out to the softball team and the big season that they had.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Excited to see how that group develops and what they can accomplish next year. And then, on the other diamond, a big weekend for the guys.
Absolutely.
Really, the ending was not pretty. But I think they did a lot for themselves over the weekend, going on that run to make it to the ACC championship game. Just after the series against Duke, there was a lot of spinning in the mud and a lot of just uncertainty about kind of where this team was headed direction wise. But then you get that sweep over Pitt heading into the ACC championship, and then you rattle off 3 straight wins that I think you needed to strengthen your hosting chances, and I think you did that.
Absolutely.
So the game against North Carolina, I mean, it is what it is. They played one less game, and your pitching was pretty spent in a situation where your staff was already kind of depleted. So I mean, it was what it was. So and it was. Cool to see them. It's cool to see Clemson host again for the 3rd straight season. They're one of two programs in college baseball that have now hosted in 2023, 2024, and 2025. So I think that's a pretty notable.
That's pretty amazing. That's not an easy feat to do. But yeah, shout out to the baseball team. They've recovered nicely, man, because I mean that stretch, kind of where we got beat up by NC State and we just kind of fell apart towards the end of the season a little bit. And, you finish the season with that Boston College series where you kind of, yeah, it's not a great baseball team, but it's good to kind of get some of that confidence back. And then you roll right into the ACC tournament and they, built, I feel like, a lot of momentum heading into the NCAA tournament starting this weekend, obviously with hosting the regional, and a lot of good momentum. And, it was kind of anticlimactic at the end with the whole North Carolina beatdown, but honestly, I don't think that matters very much. If anything, that'll fuel some fire heading into the NCAA tournament, in my opinion. And let's go see what kind of noise we can make, right? We're hosting. It feels good to have, playoff baseball in DKS, and it's going to be exciting. Shout out to them, and hopefully we can win our regional and head out to super regionals and see what this baseball team can do in this postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited. I think they got a pretty manageable draw. But I don't think it's the easiest draw in the world, but I don't think it's the worst that I've seen. I think West Virginia is very capable, but Kentucky is their team that kind of plays a lot like Clemson, but with even less power. They have phenomenal pitching, so I think they'll be an interesting team, just being an SEC team.
Yeah.
And obviously, Upstate is a good 4 seed in anybody's regional. So it's not the easiest draw in the world, but it's certainly not the hardest. And I think Clemson is easily the best team. And I expect them to make it out of that regional. But it's baseball; anything can happen. So
anything can happen, as we know. Anything can happen in baseball. You can go cold at the wrong time. Your pitcher doesn't have a great outing, and you got to deplete your bullpen in a game where you weren't expecting to. All those things are factors, and all those things can play into, what can happen in any given weekend, especially in, a tournament like the regionals. So, but much like you, I fully expect them to make it out of the regionals and then see where we stack up in the super regionals and beyond. Hopefully, maybe we can make it to Omaha this year. We shall see.
It's been a long time, brother.
It's been a while.